Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Cadisen C8189G Chronograph. This watch is available from Featured Store on AliExpress for €73. Now there is a sale on the 21st of June and the price will be reduced from €73 down to €65, which is a good discount. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch box comes protected in shipping by this white cardboard outer sleeve, which one removes, and this is the watch box itself. The watch sits on a piece of foam inside, underneath a foam cutout panel, which one removes, inside this foam cutout piece, as one would expect. So although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it is perfectly acceptable to use this style of watch box, bearing in mind it is a low tier price point piece at only €65. With regards to the other items, this is the owner's instruction manual. It's in the form of a booklet, which one folds out, and as you can see there are clear concise diagrams and the instructions are in English. So although basic, it does suffice in detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. This is the international guarantee card. Now it's not filled in, but I'm pleased to report that this Cadisen is covered by a 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. One also gets this Cadisen microfiber branded polishing cloth, and I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of the piece. Lastly, one also gets this stainless steel bracelet resizing tool, always useful to get a push pin tool included with a watch. So with regards to the specification of the watch itself, this is the Cadisen C8189G Chronograph. The watch is clearly an homage to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Chronograph, and it follows very similar proportions. 42mm case diameter, it has a 48.8mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 12mm, and an internal lug width of 20mm. The bracelet tapers at the widest point from 27mm down to 18mm at the 2-button push deploying clasp. Sapphire crystal. Now the negative is there is no AR coating on the underside, and if I tilt the piece in the light you can see that it is highly reflective and there is a lot of glare from the sapphire crystal. It could be improved with the addition of anti-reflective coating, but however one has to expect some cost-cutting measures, bearing in mind that this is only €65. On a positive note, the matte black dial contrasts very well with the silver subdials, the silver applied indices and also the silver baton hands. I think that Cadisen have made the correct decision by citing the date complication between the 4 and 5 o'clock indices on the dial. The white date wheel with black Arabic numerals is clearly legible, and it retains the symmetry of the 3 subdials as per the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Chronograph, which this is an homage to. We have a screw down crown which is solid stainless steel, signed with the Cadisen brand emblem to a high standard. It has a hexagonal formation and there are 2 hexagonal collars around the pushers. So let's test the crown action. Now the screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. Very minimal resistance when unscrewing it, it's silky smooth, so excellent quality interface between the internal thread of the screw down crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Pulling it out fully hacks the movement, which is a characteristic of the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz movement. Pushing it in has a nice positive click which restarts the movement. If one pulls out the crown to the first click, that activates the quick set date complication, and if you look at the date complication between the 4 and 5 o'clock indices, you can see that the quick set date complication works perfectly. I'm just going to screw it back down. Absolutely silky smooth. It's an absolute pleasure to operate, and therefore Cadisen deserve full credit for a very well executed screw down stainless steel crown. The pushers have hexagonal collars, but they're not screw down pushers. One has to give them a good firm push, which I actually like. I like the feeling of good firm spring resistance to a chronograph. So let's test the chronograph complication. Pressing the top pusher activates the chronograph complication, and as you can see, the second hand begins to sweep around the dial. So pressing it again stops the chronograph complication. The lower pusher activates the fly back complication, so that will make the second hand fly back to the double applied indices. And as you can see, the flyback complication works correctly. The second hand does indeed fly back to the double indices at 12 o'clock and the alignment is perfect. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelet. I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box and put it on wrist. Good positive click to the 2-button push deployment clasp, and I'm pleased to report that this fits my 8-inch wrist with no difficulty whatsoever. I can easily slip an index finger underneath the bracelet, so this will actually fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist. Now, it's a large piece at 42mm, and I'm going to say if you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you are going to find 42mm to wear with too much wrist presence for comfort. If you're a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you are going to find this to be a very comfortable piece to wear. There is a lot of heft. It's 185 grams with all the links in the bracelet. To reduce the heft to circa 150 grams and enhance the comfort, you are going to have to fit this on a rubber strap or alternatively a leather strap. I have seen pictures online of this piece fitted to a rubber strap, and it does look very aesthetically pleasing, and of course it would enhance the comfort, reducing it to circa 150 grams. At 42mm, it is a large piece, and 185 grams really is a very heavy piece even for a 42mm case. However, on a positive note, it's only 12mm thick, so it will easily slip underneath shirt cuffs if you wear business shirts, so an ideal daily wear piece. 48.8mm is close to the 48mm sweet spot. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be perfection. So it's not a long lug to lug measurement despite the 42mm case. If you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you will find this to be very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. And although 185 grams, it is a very well balanced piece because the bracelet tapers from 27mm at the widest point down to 18mm at the 2-button push deployment. Now, interesting feature of this watch, the bezel, crown, the head of the piece and also the bracelet are entirely made from 304 grade stainless steel. So I'll talk about that because it's rather unusual. Watches are usually made from 316L grade or alternatively 904L, as is the case with Rolex and Oyster Steel. So 304L is an interesting choice by Cadisen, and I'll explain what the difference is between 304L and 316L grade respectively. 304 grade is 18% chromium plus 8% nickel. 316 grade is 16% chromium plus 10% nickel plus 2% molybdenum. So really the main difference between 304 grade and 316L is the lack of 2% molybdenum. Visually, it's difficult to tell them apart because 304L and 316L have very similar luster. When one brushes the stainless steel into longitudinal grains, as you can see, the 304L does look very similar to 316L despite the lack of the 2% molybdenum. Personally, I like it. I like 304L. It has a similar look to 904L Oyster Steel because it has a more grey satin finish to it. With 316L, it looks more silver. So I think that the 304L was the correct choice, and I think it's a credit to Cadisen that they've chosen to use it rather than 316L. Now, with regards to the finishing, vertical brushed satin finish to the flanks, which make a refreshing change. Often the flanks of cases are longitudinally brushed into a satin finish, but the vertical brushing adds to the luster. As you can see, the 304 grade stainless steel has a beautiful luster when vertically brushed. Mirror polishing to the octagonal bezel, which looks very similar to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Gerald Genter design bezel. Screw down bezel, and the screws are finished to a good standard. Now, with regards to the dial, it's one of my favourite aspects of this piece. It is a textured dial in a grid formation. Some collectors refer to this grid dial as a waffle dial. The correct name of this dial is Grande Tapisserie dial. The Grande Tapisserie dial was invented by Audemars Piguet for the Royal Oak. So this does a very good job of replicating the Grande Tapisserie dial, and I like the textured grid formation of it, which is also referred to as a waffle dial, as I've discussed. Now, with regards to the case back, it's beautifully executed. Solid 304 grade stainless steel. Bead blasted matte effect to the centre section, which contrasts to the mirror polished circumference of the screw down caseback. The caseback provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres of water resistance. Nicely engraved with the specification, which has a mirror polished finish to it. So they deserve full credit for producing a well executed screw down caseback and 100 metres of hermetic seal. Now, the 2-button push-to-point clasp is very well executed, good firm resistance to the 2 triggers, mirror polish to the top side, underside and flanks to a high standard. Nice to see solid 304 grade stainless steel throughout and good quality finishing. They haven't cut any corners with regards to the quality of the finishing. So let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to its absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. So as one would expect, for €65 this uses Luminova rather than Super Luminova, so I haven't got high expectations of the lume performance, but we'll test it out nonetheless. And I'm pleased to report it hasn't disappointed. It's C3 Luminova. Now, the baton style hands don't allow for great plots of lume to be applied, but however the indices have good layers of C3 Luminova applied. It is glowing brightly and it is continuing to glow for a good length of time, so I'm pleasantly surprised by the performance. I think that the performance of the C3 is good, and I think that Cadisen deserve full credit for not cutting corners with regards to the grade of C3 Luminova used. Yes, it's not as impressive as Swiss BGW9 or C3 Super Luminova, but however it is good quality for a €65 piece. So I think it is acceptable. Now, with regards to the movement used, it uses the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. You'll be familiar with that movement from my previous reviews because it's also used in the Pagani design PD1664 and also PD1644 Daytona homages. The Seiko VK63 is a reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz movement. It's been used for a number of years in several watches. It has a stated accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds per month, and I want you to put that into perspective. Plus or minus 20 seconds per month is better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy, which is very good. It has a stated battery life of 3 years based upon you using the chronograph complication for 60 minutes per day. In reality, you're not going to be using the chronograph complication for 60 minutes per day, and therefore you can extend that 3-year battery life to 4 or even 5 years. So, very practical daily wear piece because it has sapphire crystal, C3 Luminova, 100 meters of water resistance, and a very reliable, well-proven movement, the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. So, lastly, I'll surmise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So, €65 in the AliExpress sale on the 21st of June. It is unquestionably excellent quality and unquestionably excellent value for only €65. It's really loaded with specification. To get sapphire crystal, a Seiko VK63 which is made in Japan, screw down crown, and of course 304 grade stainless steel, which as I've discussed has a beautiful luster to it. The screw down case back is also high quality, so really Cadisen deserve full credit for not cutting any corners with regards to the build quality, quality control and finishing throughout. This is an outstanding watch for €65. It is also a very good homage to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Chronograph. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I'm going to declare this watch a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Cadisen C8189G Chronograph. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.